Hello and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be factoring trinomials where the coefficient of x squared is greater than 1. To be successful on today's lesson, you need to have some experience with factoring by grouping where you have polynomials with 4 terms. If you need a refresher on factor by grouping, I will link that lesson in the description box. Let's get started on today's lesson. So when we're factoring polynomials that where the coefficient of x squared is greater than 1, the first thing you want to do is check to see if a greatest common factor can be factored out of the trinomial. The next thing you want to do is find two integers whose product is a times c. In other words, you'll be multiplying the a term times the c term, and whose sum is b. So you'll be looking at the b term for the sum. Then you will rewrite the middle term of the polynomial, that bx, okay? You'll rewrite the middle term using the integers from step 2 to create a polynomial with 4 terms. Step 4, you'll factor by grouping. And then step 5, you will check your answer. Now, these steps are going to make a lot more sense when you see a problem actually worked out. So in example 1, it says follow the steps above to factor each trinomial. Check your answer. We have 2x squared plus 15x plus 7. So step 1, check for a greatest common factor. In this problem, we do not have one. So step 2, we want to find the value of a times c. So we'll take the 2 and multiply it by c, the 7. And AC is equal to 14 in this problem. Now our B term is our middle term, and in this problem, our middle term is positive 15. So we're going to list the factors of AC. So the factors of 14 are 1 times 14 and 2 times 7. Now we want to choose the factors that will add to 15. So in this problem, I have to use the 1 and the 14. So what we're going to do now is we're going to rewrite this trinomial, 2x squared plus 15x plus 7. But I'm going to split the middle term using the 1 and the 14. Let me show you what I mean by this. Keep the first term the same, 2x squared. Don't do anything to it. But instead of 15x, I'm going to rewrite 15x as 1x plus 14x. It still equals 15x, but I've split it into 2 terms. And then the 7, I will just write it down. So the first term and the last term stay the same. All that we've done is split the middle term into 1x and 14x. All right, so step 4 says factor by grouping. So when I factor by grouping, I group up the first 2, group up the last 2, and take out the common factor. So the common factor of the first 2 terms is x. The common factor of the second 2 terms is 7. So if I factor out an x from 2x squared plus 1x, I get 2x plus 1. If I factor out a 7 from the second group, I get 2x plus 1. Now, you'll know you're doing this right if you have matching binomials, and we do. We have a 2x plus 1 and a 2x plus 1. That's our common binomial factor. So remember when we factor by grouping, we take these greatest common factors and we create a binomial out of them. And then we take our common binomial factor and write it down. Now, I could have put the 2x plus 1 first and then the x plus 7. It doesn't matter which order you write them in, okay? As long as they're both there. Now, to check it, I'll just use the box method, or some people call this the area method. You can check it with FOIL, distributive property, anything you want. So I'll just put an x, this is a positive 7, 2x, this is positive 1. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 7 is 14x. 1 times x, 1x, and 1 times 7 is 7. So this would be 2x squared. This and this can be combined to get 15x plus 7. Now, you want to check back to your original problem to see if that matches. And it does match our original problem, which tells me These are the correct factors. All right. Now, let's walk through this process again. Let's look at problem B. We have 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. So you're going to take your A and multiply it by C. So 2 times negative 15 would be negative 30, and then your middle term is negative 7. Now, I want to list the factors of 30. I'm not going to worry about the negative right now. I'm just going to list the factors of 30. So I could 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. Now, I want you to look through those factors. I'm trying to find the ones that will give me a negative 7. So there's no way I can get a negative 7 from the 1 and the 30. The 2 and 15, 2 plus 15 is 17. 15 minus 2 is 13, so that's not going to give me a negative 7. All right, 3 and 10. 3 plus 10 is 13. 10 minus 3 is 7. Okay, so I know I want to use the 3 and the 10, but to get a negative 7, I'm going to have to make one of them negative. So I want to make the 10, let me do that in red. I want to make the 10 negative because 3 plus negative 10 would give me negative 7. All right, now I know the numbers I'm going to use to split the middle term. I'm going to use 3x and negative 10x. So in step 3, it says rewrite the middle term using the integers 3 and negative 10. So remember, when we split the middle, we keep the first term the same. Then we use, in this problem, I'm using positive 3x and negative 10x. And then I'm keeping the last term the same. All right. Step 4 says to factor by grouping. So I'll group up the first two, group up the second two. The common factor for the first two is x. The common factor for the second two is 5. But because that negative 10x is negative, I want to factor out a negative 5. All right, so if I take out an x from my first group, 2x squared divided by x is 2x. 3x divided by x is positive 3. Now I'm taking out a negative 5. So negative 10x divided by negative 5 is positive 2x. Negative 15 divided by negative 5 is positive 3. Again, you'll know you're doing this correctly if you end up with matching binomials. And we did. We have a 2x plus 3 and a 2x plus 3. So I'll take the outside numbers, x minus 5, put them together in a binomial, and then take the common binomial, 2x plus 3. Now I'm not going to box it in until I check it. So again, I'll just use an area model to check this. X, negative 5, 2x, positive 3. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 5, negative 15. So let's see, my final answer, 2x squared. 3x plus negative 10x is negative 7x, and then minus 15. Now, does that match our original problem? And sure enough, it does, so I know this is the answer. All right, pause the video and try problem C on your own. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you did. For AC, I multiplied 15 times 1 to get 15, and my middle term was 8. The factors of 15 were 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Now, because I'm trying to get the middle term of 8, I chose to use 3 and 5. So 3 and 5 are the terms I'm going to use to split the middle. So 15x squared plus 3x plus 5x plus 1. So I'll group up the first two, group up the second two. Okay, my greatest common factor of the first two is 3x. Now, you may think, oh, there's no common factor of 5x and 1. Well, we do have a common factor of 1. So you do need a number right there. So if I take 3x out of 15x squared plus 3x, that would leave me 5x. 3x divided by 3x is 1. And then my greatest common factor of my second two terms is 1. 5x divided by 1 is still 5x. 1 divided by 1 is still 1. So I'm going to take my outside numbers, 3x plus 1, and then 5x plus 1. Now I want to check this. So 3x, positive 1, 5x, positive 1. 5x times 3x, 15x squared. 5x times 1, 5x. 1 times 3x, and 1 times 1 is 1. So 15x squared plus 8x. All right, it checked out. So I know this is my answer. All right, example 2. Now in example 2, both of our problems are going to have common factors that need to be taken out before we factor them. If you look at problem A, we have 8x squared plus 20x minus 48. If I multiplied 8 and 48, that would be a huge number that I would have to list the factors are. So if it's possible to take out a greatest common factor, then you can make the numbers a little bit smaller and easier to work with. So the greatest common factor of 8, 20, and 48 would be 4. So I'm going to divide all these by 4. So 8x squared divided by 4 is 2x squared. 20x divided by 4 would be 5x. And 48 divided by 4 would be negative 12. So that makes my numbers a little bit smaller and easier to work with. So in this problem, AC would be 2 times negative 12, or negative 24. Our B term is 5. So I want to list the factors of 24. I'm going to ignore the negative for right now. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Now I'm trying to get a 5. So the only thing I can really use is the 3 and the 8. But I want the 5, excuse me, I want the 5 to be positive. So I need to put the negative on the smaller number. Negative 3 plus 8 would be positive 5. So to split the middle term, I'm going to use the negative 3 and the 8. Now, when I'm splitting the middle term, I'm just going to use what's in the parentheses and rewrite it. I want to do blue. 2x squared, and then I'll split the middle using negative 3x and positive 8x, and then minus 12. And then I'll factor by grouping. So my greatest common factor of the first two terms is x. The greatest common factor of my second two terms is 4. So 2x squared divided by x is 2x. Negative 3x divided by x is negative 3. Now take a 4 out of the second two. 8x divided by 4 is 2x. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. All right, we've got our matching binomial, so we need this. We know we have this right. So my first binomial would be x plus 4. My second binomial would be 2x minus 3. But there's one more thing I have to do. I have a greatest common factor up here that I need to bring down and add to the answer. If I don't, it won't check out when we check it. Now, let me show you how to check these when you have a greatest common factor. All right, so we have 4 parenthesis x plus 4 parenthesis 2x minus 3. I want to multiply that first parenthesis, the x plus 4, everything in that parenthesis by 4. So 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times 4 is 16. And then don't do anything to the second parenthesis, 2x, negative 3. All right, now let's work that out. 2x times 4x is 8x squared. 2x times 16 would be 32x. Negative 3 times 4x. Negative 3 times 4x would be negative 12x. And negative 3 times 16 would be negative 48. So when I combine that, I get 8x squared, let's see, plus 20x minus 48. Is that what we started with? Yes, it is. So I know this is my correct answer. All right, problem B, 5x squared minus 30x minus 80. Now, the first thing I've noticed is I have a common factor of 5. So I'm going to divide everything in here by 5. So this would be x squared minus 6x minus 16. All right. Now, in this problem, this is the first one we've done where the a term is 1. So we don't really need to use factoring by grouping if your coefficient of x squared is 1. If the coefficient of x squared is 1, let me just draw two binomials here. All you have to do is list the factors of the last term, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4, and then see which ones can add up to give you a negative 6. So we know we're going to have to use the 2 and the 8, but I'll have to make the 8 negative so that it'll give me negative 6. So this would be x plus 2x minus 8. So if your coefficient of a is equal to 1, there's a much faster way to factor it that you learned in a previous lesson. So I'm just returning to that previous lesson. I'm not going to waste my time factoring by grouping if I don't have to. Now, let me just remind you how to check it. You would take that 5 and multiply it by the x plus 2. So 5 times x, 5x. 5 times 2 is 10. And then we have x and negative 8. So 5x times x, 5x squared. X times 10, 10x. Negative 8 times 5x is negative 40x. And negative 8 times 10, negative 80. So when I combine everything, I get 5x squared, negative 30x minus 80. Is that what we started with? Yes. So I know this is the answer. All right. Example 3. Which expressions are equivalent to 12x squared minus 48x plus 48? Select all that apply. Well, the first thing that jumps out at me in this problem is there's a common factor of 12. So I'm going to divide that out before I do anything. So 12x squared divided by 12 is x squared. Negative 48x divided by 12 would be negative 4x. And 48 divided by 12 would be positive 4. Now I'm going to look through my answers. Look at E. That one's equivalent to it. Now, I want to see, can I factor what's in my parentheses further? Okay, in other words, can I come up with two binomial factors? Now, look at x squared. I want you to notice the coefficient of x squared is 1. That means we don't need to factor by grouping on this one. We can list the factors of 4, which are 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. And since we're trying to add up to that middle term, I'm going to use the 2 and the 2, but make them both negative so that they'll give me the negative 4x. So this would be x minus 2, x minus 2. Now, there's nothing in our answer choices that say 12 parenthesis x minus 2, x minus 2. But I look at answer A because x minus 2 times x minus 2 can be rewritten as x minus 2 quantity squared. So I know answer A is also equivalent. And I don't see any other answer choices that would work in that problem. All right. Example 4. Which expression is a factor of 2x squared minus 25x plus 63? All right, so I don't see a common factor. So the first thing I want to do is multiply the a and the c together. So 2 times 63 would be 126, and our middle term is negative 25. Now, 126 is a pretty big number. So to list the factors of 126, I'm going to use a little trick on your calculator that can help you make a factor list. I'm going to use Desmos, but you can use any graphing calculator. If you're on a regular graphing calculator, you just go to a graph page and you're going to type in 126 or whatever number you're trying to make a factor list for, and you're going to divide it by x. Then you're going to go to the table. To create a table on Desmos, you use this little gear button and then press the table. I'm going to start it with 1. So 1 times 126, 2 times 63. Let's see if 3 is a factor. Yep, 3 times 42. Is 4 a factor? Nope. Is 5 a factor? Nope. Is 6 a factor? Yes. 6 times 21. Is 7 a factor? Yes. Ooh, and I'm going to stop right there because I'm trying to get this number, negative 25. And I know I can get a 25 from 7 and 18 if I make them both negative. So we're going to split the middle here. Let me go back to blue. 2x squared, split the middle with negative 7x and negative 18x plus 63. Take out your common factors. Ooh, what would my common factor here be? I believe it would be 9. All right, so x, we'll find out in a minute if I'm right. This would be 2x minus 7. I almost made a mistake. I want you to look at that negative, that 18x. Notice how it's negative. I should be taking out a negative 9. I almost made a mistake there. So negative 18x divided by negative 9 is positive 2x. And 63 divided by negative 9, oh, I'm so happy because I just noticed that I have matching binomials, which means I did this problem right. So my factors are x minus 9, 2x minus 7. Now, let's go back to the question. Which expression, A, B, C, or D, is a factor of 2x squared minus 25x plus 6? So x plus 9 is not a factor. 2x minus 7. Oh, there we go. We just found it. And that concludes today's lesson, factoring trinomials where the value of a is greater than 1.